Dave. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were yelling at another car while driving, let me say it again. You need to calm down. Yelling is just making everyone as stressed out as you are and letting them all know that you definitely aren't trying to save with Progressive Snapshot. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't yelling at another car, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Congratulations to Walter Liggett of Montpelier, our latest winner from WDEV's Fairness to Fans machine. The next firing of Fairness to Fans is Friday, August 26th. You must be listening to win. Fill out the entry form at WDEVradio.com, then tune in Friday, August 26th during the noon hour. If we call your name, you'll have 5 minutes and 50 seconds to call in and win the LaRue Brothers Transmissions Fairness to Fans machine, only on WDEV.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
Mac Jones is good. That's not the question. The question is he good enough to win repeatedly in this loaded AFC?
The stories that matter to you.
If I'm Xander Bogaerts, I need 3 things in order to get over that insulting contract offer.
This is your home for New England sports.
Jason Tatum, superstar. Book it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show back at it on a Wednesday right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Short show today. We're up until 6:10. Red Sox Braves, Game 2. Another tough loss for the Sox last night. They lose an extras 9-7. They're now 3 under 500. They're 5 games back of the final wild card spot entering play today. We're going to talk with the Sox insider at NESN, Tom Caron, in a couple of minutes. He'll be with us, and I've got to shout out the Vermont Lake Monsters as well today, who are playing for the championship or starting the championship series in the Futures Collegiate Baseball League in Burlington tonight.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com, and you can also get in always on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. I just have a question for the audience. From this point forward, 50 games left. 51 games left. Red Sox 54 and 57. 5 games back entering play today. From this point forward, why are you watching Red Sox baseball? Why are you listening to Red Sox baseball? Some of you might tell me, Brady, I'm watching because I think they still got a chance for the playoffs, and that's fine. I have declared the Red Sox dead. They are not officially dead. They're not mathematically dead, but I have declared them dead. So I've got a list of reasons that I'm still paying attention. I'm curious as to what your reasons are. Are you watching to see if something happens? Are you watching seriously because you think the playoffs are a possibility? Why are you watching Red Sox baseball? I've got 4 real reasons that have me invested still, despite me thinking the season is over. Number 1, I want to see if Tristan Casas comes up, and then see subsequently how he looks if and when he does. We have focused a lot this season on young pitching. The Red Sox had a lot of young pitching that was closer to the big leagues than young hitting, right? Siebold, Winkowski, Bayo, Cutter Crawford, a lot of time spent on the young pitching. Well, Tristan Casas is the closest, and Duran, but the closest big-name hitter to the big leagues. I want to see if he comes up and if he's able to make an impact. Tristan Casas is a physical beast at 6'4". He dominated in the Olympics for Team USA last summer in Tokyo. He's got the ability to drive the ball. He's got the ability to be that offensive threat that Bobby Dahlbeck hasn't been. Now, he's only hitting 246 in AAA this year, but he does have a 350 on-base percentage, so there are some offensive skills and some plate discipline there. He's hot right now. He's hitting 9 of his last 10, so he's coming back on strong after an injury kept him out for a bit. I will be curious if he comes up and subsequently what we can learn about him. Is he already the real deal? And if he is, can he start day one next year? And if he can I trade Bobby Dahlbeck this offseason to get some more organizational depth? Could I trade Eric Hosmer for some more organizational depth? If Tristan Casas comes up this year and he proves he's ready, then Dahlbeck and Hosmer are expendable and maybe can be flipped to go get me some pitching or some bullpen pieces that I'm going to need next year. Or is Tristan Casas a guy who's still raw, who's not ready, and I've got to keep Hosmer around to start next season? I don't know, but that's something that I'm really looking forward to finding out, hopefully here in the last 50 games or so. When you have a team that's out of it or teetering on the edge of out of it, one of the joys is watching for the prospects, and Tristan Casas is right at the top of that list for me. Number 2 on the reasons I'm watching the Red Sox the rest of the year. I want to see the attitude of Xander Bogaerts. I don't doubt that the effort is going to be there. Xander Bogaerts always plays and prepares hard. That's never in question. But what does Xander Bogaerts' attitude look like the rest of the year? As the team presumably falls further out of the race, is Xander Bogaerts going to be a guy who looks like he enjoys being here? I understand how he acts in September doesn't necessarily reflect anything that he'll do this offseason as far as re-signing with the Red Sox, but I'd like to at least feel like he still has love for Boston. How does he act in the media? How does he relate to Cora in the dugout? Is he taking on a leadership position still in the second half, or is he becoming more detached? If he becomes more detached from the team, that tells one story about the future. If he embraces a young player like a Tristan Casas, puts his arm around him and coaches him up, that leads me to believe there might be something else at play. What is Xander Bogaerts' overall attitude, and what can we read into that moving forward into this offseason? Question number 3, or topic number 3, I want to see addressed the rest of the way. I want to see what becomes of the Red Sox outfielders. Jarren Duran, can he figure out how to play defense? Can he stick in center? Does he have to move to a corner? And then, can he also learn to make consistent contact? But also, what happens with Alex Verdugo? Verdugo is a good player, but he isn't growing a ton offensively. I don't think he needs to be Mookie Betts. That's an unfair expectation. But he was brought back in a deal for Mookie Betts. There is some pressure there to grow and close that gap. And largely, Alex Verdugo is the same player now that he's always been. And that is a problem. He strikes me as more Andrew Benintendi than he does as closing the gap on Mookie Betts. I mean, look at the stats. They tell the story. In 2019, Verdugo played 106 games with the Dodgers. He hit 12 home runs. Okay? 12 home runs in 106 games. In the COVID 2020 season, Verdugo hit 6 homers, which kind of grades out to 15 homers over a full season. So there was some power growth there. But since then, he hit 13 home runs last year in a full season. It didn't go up. He's on pace for 11 homers this year. It's not going to go up. His batting average is on track to be the lowest it's been in any year he's played at least 100 games. His slugging and on-base percentage have cratered also. It's not that Alex Verdugo is not a useful player. He is. But he's not heading towards being a centerpiece to build around. Benny was proven expendable. He was proven tradable. Maybe Verdugo trends in that way too. The power's not getting better. The average is not getting better. The on-base percentage is down. He's a useful player. Alex Verdugo is a major leaguer. He can be a starter on a good team. But if you make a trade if you trade Mookie Betts and get back Verdugo as the headliner, there's some pressure to improve, and he just hasn't. And I want to see him improve as we move forward here in the last 50 games. And finally, the last reason I'm interested in the Red Sox this season, back to the young pitchers. We've got to see where they're at. How many of these guys can find a place in the rotation or my bullpen next year? Nick Pavetta's around next season. I think Garrett Whitlock is there. So that's 2 starters you already have. Chris Sale, we know the doubts. Maybe 3. How many of my young guys can internally fill those spots? Brian Bayo, Connor Siebold, Josh Winkowski, Cutter Crawford. Can these guys fill out my rotation? Do they get kicked to the bullpen and help my depth there? Are some of them not good enough to do either, and I'm going big ticket shopping in the offseason? I don't know. But some of these guys are going to get more chances as the season goes on, and I want to see who takes a chance and runs with it and who potentially folds. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. That's why I'm watching the Red Sox the rest of the way. We'll talk about the guy who watches the Red Sox every day, all day, no matter what. That's Tom Caron, our sex insider at NESN. He's with us next on DEV.
I had low back pain that was due to herniated discs.
Meet Dr. Justin Garzone, another satisfied patient who found regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics.
Over a very short period of time, the pain went away completely, and I've had absolutely no symptoms or pain since my treatment.
Before Dr. Garzone found QC Kinetics, he was looking at all the old school pain treatments.
It was recommended that I have steroid injections done, but then unfortunately my insurance company said that I would have to do 3 months of physical therapy first, and I needed to get better quickly.
With QC Kinetics, the doctor got lasting relief with no downtime.
I didn't have to take any medications during my treatment. I avoided surgery, and I am now pain-free.
Don't live with chronic pain, and don't go under the knife. Call QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, for a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS. QC Kinetics, 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS. Treatments are not yet FDA approved.
The Vermont State Colleges are the Community College of Vermont, Castleton University, Northern Vermont University, and Vermont Technical College. We exist for the benefit of Vermont. We provide diverse college experiences for Vermont students and the qualified workforce needed to grow the state's economy. We are your Vermont State Colleges. Vermonters have access to quality higher education no matter where they live. With locations within 25 miles of most households, as well as online, our state colleges are accessible to everyone. 83% of our students are Vermonters. They come to us for personal growth, career training, and better job opportunities. 2/3 of our graduates continue to live and work in Vermont, and our programs align with Vermont's workforce needs. Our students go on to provide healthcare, create new businesses, educate our children, design and engineer solutions in new technology, and more. These are the professionals that create a dynamic community and a thriving economy. Look to your Vermont State Colleges to drive Vermont's future at yourfuture.vsc.edu.
How well does your garden grow? Tune in Saturdays at 12:30 for In the Garden with Peter Burke. Peter and co-host Joel Nashman give you 1 full hour of the latest news, helpful tips, and your calls to talk about what's happening in your garden. It's brought to you in part by Bees Flowers and Garden Shop. Flowers, hanging baskets, potting supplies, and more in Waitsfield. In the Garden with Peter Burke. Live Saturdays at 12:30. Hear the podcast anytime at WDEVradio.com.
Looking for the latest information on the Red Sox?
Not only is David Ortiz a Hall of Famer, but he is one of the best of the best.
How about the Bruins?
Are they a Stanley Cup champion? Probably not as presently constructed, but they're a playoff team.
Then you've come to the right place. We talk now with NESN insider Tom Caron.
Baseball isn't boring because there's still nothing like the communal gathering of fans at a baseball game.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Red Sox baseball coming after our show. Sox and Braves, game 2 of a quick 2-game set from Fenway, and lots to get to in Red Sox land. Joining us now is our Sox insider at NESN, Tom Caron. TC, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Brady?
I am very tired today. I stayed up until 2:30 in the morning last night, watched every pitch of Red Sox, or of Mariners Yankees. I got to say, it was the best regular season baseball game I've ever seen. To be 0-0 in the 13th in the era of automatic runners is just insane pitching. There was not a fastball under 95 miles an hour until the 10th inning.
It was great stuff. It was great pitching. It was playoff drama. It was everything we've been missing watching the Red Sox over the last few weeks, right? And I mean, good for the Mariners. Listen, the Mariners were fun last year when they came up that last night, last day short. I remember, that Saturday night game, the Dave Sims call when they won the game that, tomorrow matters, and they were America's team. They're a fun team to root for if you're a Red Sox fan. I mean, because, again, the Red Sox aren't giving you a whole lot to root about last night. But they beat the Yankees. That makes it even more fun.
We'll talk about the Red Sox on-field stuff here momentarily, but let's talk about the off-field stuff. An emotional pregame show yesterday. You were sitting down with Eck, and Eck, was already known by the Boston Globe on Monday that he was going to step aside at the end of this season, but your talk with him yesterday almost moved him to tears. I was almost moved to tears yesterday. Your thoughts on working with Eck for the last 20 years and him ultimately stepping aside after this season?
Yeah, I was watching it back. We go back through it to try to decide what we're going to show again in the post game, and I was moved to tears. So glad everybody was crying together last night. It was, here's the thing I tell people all the time: the Dennis Eckersley you see on TV is the Dennis Eckersley we get to see off TV, and he and I talk a lot. But, we joked about the morning calls. I'm amazing. We talk 3-4 times a week. We talk baseball. We talk life. He is such an incredible person. Truly one of the most genuine people I have ever met. It's that rare mix of Hall of Fame talent as a baseball player, humility as a person, compassion for others, and an insane passion for the game of baseball. I guarantee you he went home and watched the rest of that Seattle-New York game because he just can't turn it off. I started to and fell asleep and went to bed because I can turn it off. And so he's special. We're going to miss him. It doesn't surprise me at all. We've talked a lot in the last few months about his decision. I kind of helped be his sounding board a little bit when he was working through all the emotions, but he's a guy who goes all in on everything he does. He did it as a pitcher. He does it as a broadcaster. And now he wants to do it as a grandfather, and he can't do it with the grandkids out in California and the baseball team in Boston. And he wouldn't, like I said last night, I know personally a bunch of guys who would say, I'll still do 12, 20 games, just drop by and do them. But he can't. He can't just drop by and do them. He has to watch everything, grind on everything, prepare for everything. And he didn't think it was fair to his family to do that. So good for him. We will miss him terribly as a broadcaster, but I know I won't lose him as a friend.
Yeah, we are going to miss him as a viewer as well. He makes Red Sox baseball even more enjoyable than the on-field product at times. And he is awesome to listen to. Funny, insightful, humble, I think, on the mic. So definitely going to miss him. As far as what comes next, don't give away company secrets if you know them, but I'm curious, is it harder now to find a former player to do a full 162? Because the guys who played recently made so much more money than the guys in the past. They don't need this job for the money every night. So is it hard? Like the idea that you guys are going to come in and put in a former player for 162, that seems very ambitious to me.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. Listen, I've had conversations with teams and players and coaches about this. It's the same reason it's so hard for teams to find coaches. Okay, because it's even more so if you're going to be a coach, right? The grind of being a coach, being on the field at noon for early batting practice, and right, normally former players became coaches. Well, I mean, if we do this all the time, to your exact point, as a sort of a philosophical exercise, producers and I will sit around and think about, let's make a list of 10 random guys who you think could be a Red Sox analyst on NESN. And then we'll go look up on Cott's contracts how much money they made. And these are guys you're like, oh, he didn't have a great career. Nobody made $12 million. Nobody made $29 million. And again, good for them. I mean, that's what the market bears, and that's it. But if I made $29 million in my career and I was 37 years old and I had a couple of young kids that I hadn't spent a long time around, you think I'm going to do 162 games? You're out of your mind. Okay. But I think, we began this a long time ago in studio with me, right? We've never had one guy for all the games in studio. We've had Rice and Eck and then Wake and now, Middlebrooks jumping in, Steve Lyons for a while. We've juggled a lot of guys over the years. I think you can do that. Yes, Network does that pretty well with the Yankees. You don't need 7 guys, right? But if you have 3 guys doing 50, 60 games apiece, maybe some 3-man booth as an overlap. And again, I'm not giving away company secrets because they don't bring me in for the secret meetings. So I have no idea what they're thinking. But I like what we've been doing this year. I think Uke's really good. I think Tony Maz gives you a different sound as a writer who's a little more critical of the team. Millar is just, like shotgunning a beer before a party or having the espresso instead of a cup of coffee. Like, he's just the jolt of energy that you need every once in a while. So, I think what they've done is fun. We'll see where they go. I know Uke loves doing it, and I could easily see him becoming the sort of primary guy, if you will. I think he's doing the most after Eck right now already. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Middlebrook's been really good in studio. I don't know if he's interested in getting into the booth or not. Brock Holt is a name that's always kind of been out there, and I talk to once in a while. He's still trying to sign on with the team, but I talked to him the other day, and it's August, and he hasn't been picked up by anybody. So I think the reality is coming to him that maybe it's time for Chapter 2. So we'll see. I mean, there are guys out there, but you're right. It's really hard to find somebody to do 162.
Well, we'll see what happens here, and Eck, again, will be missed. We're talking with Tom Caron, our Sox insider over at NESN here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I want to preface what I'm about to say by knowing this is highly unlikely. The agents would not be good with it. The Players Association would not be good with it. But Chris Sale has said over and over again that he feels like he's basically stealing from the Red Sox with how little he's been able to contribute. If he really means that, could he opt out of his deal and sign back at a more team-friendly rate? It's 2 years, $55 million. Could he go 2 years, $30 million, open up some money to bring back Devers or Bogarts or go make the team better? That would be a way to kind of put your money where your mouth is.
Absolutely, it would. There's no chance of it happening, I don't think, because I think, like you said, the Players Association would be all over him. And one of the reasons you often see a guy, I'm trying to think of, I can't think of an example right off the top of my head, but you'll so often see a guy who you find out later kind of went somewhere for just a little bit more, and in the end you find out he really didn't want to stay and would have been happier with a little. Well, it's often because there's a lot of pressure from the Players Association to always be lifting the bar, right? To always be setting a new standard, because they really do believe, and rightly so, I understand why, but players do have it instilled on them that, you are also leading the way for all the players behind you. You set the new mark as a first baseman. Other first basemen are going to make more money because of you. And I think players believe that. So it's hard to give back, right? It's hard to turn things back. So it would be it's kind of what Tom Brady did all those years in New England, right? Renegotiate your contract and give the team a little more room under the cap for other players. But that didn't end well. So, I don't see that happening, but he has said that type of thing time again. And I will tell you this, Chris Sale is his own man. And if he wanted to do that and believed he should do that, he wouldn't care what the union would say. I know, I know him well enough to know that he's going to do what he thinks best. But I can't imagine that team. The team can't ask him to do it, obviously. So that would have to be just him coming in and say, hey, I'll do this. And hopefully he comes in a car and not a bike, because I never want to see this guy ride a bike again.
I saw this on Twitter after the Kansas City series, too. It's fair to start questioning Alex Cora's job security. I fought back on that notion yesterday. Where do you stand on it?
Oh, I think it's fair to question his security, because the question really is, where is this franchise headed in the short term? He's got 2 years left in his deal. Where is this team going over the next 2 years? Are we in for a total rebuild? And I don't know the answer to that. I would have said no way 2 months ago. Now you're sitting here, and, it almost, by not trading J.D. Martinez and by not trading Nathan Eovaldi, to me, it almost makes the future more uncertain, because now you are probably going to lose both those guys without getting anything in return. Very possibly Bogarts as well. And so are we waiting for Marcelo Meyer and Blaze Jordan and Nick York to get here? Well, that's 2-3 years from now. And if that's the case, it's hard to imagine any manager making it through, a Baltimore Orioles type couple of years. Now, they're not the Orioles. They have the financial resources that you could rebuild in much quick. You could go out, hit the free agent market, make a trade or two, I think, get a healthy James Paxton. I'm not even going to say Chris Sale, because it's not where, but, you should have a healthy Chris Sale. And you could be right back in there. And if they go that way, then I think Alex Cora will be here a long time. I do know he has said he doesn't want to manage forever. and that he has two, the twins are young, but they're growing up. He wants to be around for them. He's been the general manager of a World Baseball Classic team, so he could handle a front office position if he wanted to scale back a little bit, have a little bit more family time, a little less time on the road. Who knows? But it's fair. Sure, it's fair to question because of, how sort of adrift this franchise is right now with 51 games remaining.
Tom Caron, Red Sox insider at NESN, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. We can quibble about moves that were and weren't made at the deadline. I would have sold off all those guys that you just mentioned. But to me, the direction of the franchise has always seemed clear. You come in, you build the farm system. Red Sox now are at the 10th ranked farm system, according to Fangraphs. Ryan Bloom then does the Dodgers thing where he sees if he can scour under the couch cushions to find talent. He's done that with Whitlock and Schreiber and Ref Snyder and a couple others. So to me, kind of the first two parts of the plan are done. The third part is now you got $60 million coming off the books. Now you go spend. If that happens this offseason, I think we're all going to be pretty happy at how this thing was built. Am I too optimistic?
No, because that's, I've said all along, listen, when Bloom gets the criticism for bringing Tampa Bay to Boston, I always say, well, let's hope he then evolves into Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers, like you said, who also came from Tampa Bay, as we know. So you're right. But the question is, are we at stage 3 this offseason, or are we at stage 3 in 2 off seasons or 3 off seasons? And that, to me, is going to be everything. And I don't know. I don't know the answer. This team, and some said it at the time, right? Maybe the worst thing that happened to this team was going as deep as they did last year, because it made the expectations even higher that we are further along in that process than maybe they were. And the reality is, in some ways, this feels to me like 2014 all over again. You won the World Series in 13. It was lightning in a bottle. 14, you were back in last place. For 2 straight years, 14 and 15, you were in last place after winning a World Series. So are we back to that, where you still need to just let things grow from the bottom and then you add the pieces? I think the plan is to get to exactly what you're saying. I'm just not sure it's this offseason or an offseason to come.
TC, yes or no? 3 under, 5 back in the final wildcard spot. Are the Red Sox done?
No. But they're close. I'm not ready to pull the plug on them yet, but I'll tell you, next week I'm going to have a much more definitive answer on that, because you got the Yankees in town this weekend. You got what I keep saying is the most important series of the year, the one game with the Baltimore Orioles on Thursday, because if you win that game, you've won a series against an American League East team, just a one-game series. Right? So you got to win that one. They're right on the edge. So I said last night, if you watch the show, I said in the pregame show, there are 52 games left going into last night. And I think 84 wins is what you're going to need to make the playoffs. I think that's going to be right around where the last wild card team is. Might be 1 or 2 more, 1 or 2 less. But let's say 84. That meant going into last night, you needed to go 30 and 22. That's not that outrageous. Okay, that's just good baseball. That's not a scorching hot. You don't need to win 14 in a row. You don't even need to win 2 out of 3 the whole way, okay? So 30 and 22 is what you need. You lost last night. Now it's 30 and 21, right? So if you want to look at it that way, my theory is with 51 games remaining, you have 21 losses to play with. If you're going to keep losing it, they've lost 5 out of 6. If you're going to lose 5 out of the next 6, you're done. So I think we're right there. We're right there. You can't. Last night was it was actually a really good baseball game. Both teams battled. They came back 3 times. And if this were May, you'd be like, that's good baseball. This is fun. It's not May. And you don't have time to play good baseball anymore. You have to win. And the process isn't enough anymore. You need results. And your 4 or 5 losses in the next 10 days or next 4 or 5 losses in the next 8 days away from being done. And that's the reality. Now, you win tonight. You beat Baltimore. Could you pull 2 out of 3 against the Yankees? Yeah, because they're struggling, right? You do all that, then your life support is still holding on, because you're on life support, but you're not dead yet.
TC, you're the best. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you in 7 days.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There he goes, Tom Caron, our Red Sox insider over at NESN. Yeah, the Red Sox baseball will start here in about 12 minutes for us at 6:10 with the pregame show. I'll give you the lineups here in about 10 minutes. So good stuff from TC as always. Love what he had to say about Eck. Love what he had to say about NESN's plans. I do think we'll see more of the rotating group of characters. Like I said the other day, it just makes the most sense for the network and the former players. And I really like it. I like what NESN has done. As long as Dave O'Brien can adapt to it in the way that TC has adapted to it in the studio broadcasts, then I'm good with it. I like Uke. I like Millar. I like Will Middlebrooks. I know he's been in the booth or in the studio, but could he get to the booth? Yeah, I think he would maybe have an interest in that too. So I am good with it, but there is nobody like Eck. There is nobody like Eck. And good stuff from TC on where the Red Sox are at organizationally also. I know I don't think Sale's going to opt out, but it would be a way of showing that his money goes where his mouth is. We'll get the CBS News update. We'll come back, Red Sox lineups, and I got to admit it. On the Vermont Lake Monsters, I was wrong. I will tweet them an apology because I was wrong, and I'll tell you why, and that's next here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York.
You see, the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Despite saying those words back in 2016, former President Trump took the Fifth today and declined to answer questions in a New York State investigation into his businesses. Here's CBS's Naomi Ruckham.
Former President Donald Trump gave a thumbs up as he left Trump Tower for his deposition, but he later released a statement saying he didn't answer any questions. The civil investigation, led by New York's Attorney General Democrat Letitia James, is looking into whether the Trump Organization misstated the values of multiple real estate properties to get favorable loans and tax deductions.
This is just one of several investigations Trump faces. Earlier this week, the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and since then, FBI Director Christopher Wray says they've been getting more threats of violence.
I will say that I'm always concerned about violence and threats of violence against law enforcement.
An intelligence group that tracks extremist activity online also says violent rhetoric is escalating again, but it hasn't reached the same level as what it saw ahead of January 6th. President Biden talked inflation today as consumer prices went up 8.5% in July from a year ago.
While the price of some things went up last month, the price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, zero inflation last month, but people were still hurting.
Lower prices at the pump helped. AAA says gas now averages $4 a gallon nationwide. An Iranian operative is wanted by the FBI for plotting to murder former National Security Advisor John Bolton. CBS's Stacey Lynn reports.
The Justice Department charged Shahram Poursafi in the murder-for-hire plot. He allegedly tried to pay individuals $300,000 to murder John Bolton in Washington, D.C. or Maryland, saying it didn't matter how the murder was carried out, but that his group wanted video confirmation of the death.
Health officials are responding to a polio scare overseas.
No actual cases of polio have been reported, but since February, more than 100 polio viruses have been identified in sewage samples. In response to that, around 1 million children ages 1 to 9 in the London area are being urged to get polio boosters. Authorities make clear this is a precautionary measure. The last reported case of polio in the UK was in 1984. Last month, the US had its first reported case in nearly a decade. Steve Futterman, CBS News.
Meantime, the U.S. has now surpassed 10,000 cases of monkeypox. About 900 cases were confirmed within just the last 24 hours. This is CBS News.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
Water is a critical resource for all of us. Is the water you use every day as good as it should be? Plumbing Solutions LLC now has a dedicated water treatment division called Water Treatment Solutions, a local family-owned business that will provide testing, system design, installation, and annual maintenance, residential or commercial. Hard water, staining, odor, or acidity. If you're experiencing any of these problems, call 802-888-4011. Water Treatment Solutions, a supporter of the Antique and Classic Car Show in Waterbury this weekend.
Are you thinking of getting an electric vehicle? Are you curious about how they work, how much they cost, and how much money they save? Do you wince at the price every time you fill your gas tank? Then you should come to the Leap Electric Vehicle Fest, Wednesday, August 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Crossett Brook Middle School in Duxbury. You'll see Teslas, Mustangs, Volts, VWs, Rivians, Subarus, Hyundais, Prius Primes, and many other EVs, and hear directly from experts and owners about their cars. You'll also see a range of electric lawn equipment and some cool electric bikes, too. This free event is hosted by the volunteers of Waterbury Leap. If you're interested in skipping trips to the gas station, saving money, and helping the planet, then come to the Leap Electric Vehicle Fest, Wednesday, August 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Crossett Brook Middle School in Waterbury. No RSVP is required for this free event. Masks are strongly encouraged. For more information, call Elena at 603-748-9564.
How well does your garden grow? Tune in Saturdays at 12:30 for In the Garden with Peter Burke. Peter and co-host Joel Nashman give you 1 full hour of the latest news, helpful tips, and your calls to talk about what's happening in your garden. It's brought to you in part by Poly Construction, Gregory Drive, South Burlington. One call does it all. In the Garden with Peter Burke, live Saturdays at 12:30. Hear the podcast anytime at WDEVradio.com. Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Red Sox baseball coming up just about 5 minutes from now, Game 2 against the Braves. Tonight at Centennial Field in Burlington, it's Game 1 of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League Championship Series. The Lake Monsters taking on Westfield. The Lake Monsters going for their second consecutive championship in the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. And I've got to say, I was wrong about this whole Lake Monsters thing. I really felt when the Lake Monsters lost their professional affiliation and we lost the chance to see top draft picks and we lost the chance to see guys that were likely going to make it to the majors, I thought when that went away, the crowd support would really dwindle. And in fact, it has been the complete opposite. The crowds are emboldened, they are empowered, and they are filling Centennial nightly. Lake Monsters had nearly double the highest attendance in the league last year. I'm sure it's going to be a similar gap this year. Every time I look at the Lake Monsters on social media, there's between 2,000 and 3,000 people at these games, and I was wrong. I still think the luxury boxes are unnecessary and overpriced. That I won't back down on. But this thing has worked far better than I expected it to. I always thought it would work. I always thought this league would do well in Burlington and there would be support, but I did not expect there to be as much support as there is. You keep the name Lake Monsters, you keep Champ around, you keep 25-cent hot dog night around. I was told that would keep the crowd strong, and I kind of scoffed it off. Apparently, I was the one who was wrong there. Lake Monsters faithful have turned out all season, and they have been great, and the team has been great too. The team is good. They're still called the Lake Monsters. Champ is still there, and they're still filling that place 2,000 to 3,000 strong every night. I thought it would do well. I didn't think it would do that well. So I'll have to put a apology out on Twitter to the Lake Monsters because kudos to them, and I hope they go get that championship. It looks like it's been fun. Because the games are at 6:35, I haven't made it to any game this year at Centennial because I'm always working, at least the weekday games. Weekends, I've been gone a lot. But, championship baseball at Centennial, what more can you really ask for? The Braves are 65 and 46. The Red Sox are 54 and 57. Pitching matchup tonight. Kyle Wright for the Braves. He's 13 and 5 with a 3.22. Nick Pivetta 8 and 8 with a 4.51. Leading off for the Braves in right field, Ronald Acuna Jr. He's got 24 steals and 9 home runs. Dansby Swanson hits second. He's at shortstop. Austin Riley, the hero of last night, he's got 30 homers, hitting .298. He's at third. Matt Olson's at first with 21 homers. William Contreras is the catcher, batting fifth. Eddie Rosario is in left field. He bats sixth. Marcelo Ozuna is the DH, batting seventh. Michael Harris, the second, is the center fielder, 10 homers, 34 ribbies, 12 stolen bases. He's in the 8th spot. And welcome to the show, Braves top prospect Vaughn Grissom. He bats 9th and plays second. For the Sox, Tommy Pham leads off in left. Rafael Devers is at third. Xander Bogaerts is at short. Alex Verdugo is in right, hitting cleanup today. JD Martinez is the DH. Christian Arroyo is at second. Reese McGuire is the catcher. Bobby Dalbec's at first, and Jaron Duran is in center. You look at this Red Sox lineup, there is not a lot of power in it. It continues to be a problem. Devers, 24 homers. Dalbec, the only Red Sox regular, also in double figures. He's got 11. Pham has 13. Obviously, most of those accumulated not with the Red Sox. Buster Olney stops by tomorrow. He'll be with us at 5:45. We'll talk about, well, my takeaways on Alex Verdugo and more on the Red Sox lack of power and more. Sox entered the day 5 back of the final wild card spot. They're going to need a win tonight. Look to split this mini 2-game set at Fenway. Thanks to Tom Caron. Thanks to all of you for getting in on the Napa Morrisville Napa Waterbury text line. Appreciate you as always. We will see you tomorrow with the Brady Farkas Show. Go download the full show podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also check it out always at WDEVradio.com. Go Sox, everybody.